So Matthew McConaughey, this is not an attack on Matthew McConaughey, but he makes a surprise visit at the White House press room because he was born and a little bit raised in Uvalde, Texas, where the terrible shootings took place. And these shootings have become this scandal about the police not going in to save these kids is a big scandal. We'll have to talk about that another day because this, I think, is something we should really talk about. So I'm not attacking Matthew McConaughey. He is welcome to have opinions about politics. He is welcome to have heartfelt opinions about his hometown. He's welcome to have any damned opinions he wants, right? He's an individual. Why shouldn't he say anything? The problem is not Matthew McConaughey talking. The problem is not any of these celebrities talking. It's us listening. It is us conferring upon them more power than they ought to have because it's very difficult not to. That's their superpower. Their superpower is colonizing our imaginations. It's my superpower. When I write a book, I'm colonizing a reader's imagination. Hopefully I'm doing it honestly. Hopefully I'm doing it in some kind of collaboration with reality, so I'm not poisoning your mind. But when a guy starts talking about politics, he still is talking with the power of his movie stardom. And he's not just a movie star, he's a cool dude. He has a cool aspect. We make fun of kind of how hip he is, the all right. But still, he's a cool dude. You want to know him, you want to like him. And he comes on and this is what he says about what we're going to do. And this is the other thing. Because he's from Texas, he has a kind of middle American aspect to him that and some kind of libertarian leanings, so he can appeal to the right, even when he's trying to take away your gun rights, which should not be infringed on even a little bit. Here's what he says. Listen carefully.
We need to invest in mental health care. We need safer schools. We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage. We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values. And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them. These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations to our nation, states, communities, schools, and homes. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals.
So I'm in my car and I'm listening to Fox News, and I'm listening to the Fox News, the Five, right? And I want to mention them specifically because I happen to really like them. They give really good commentary. Greg Gutfeld, love the guy. He's one of my favorites on Fox. Dana Perino, one of the nicest human beings I've ever met in my life. And they are just in love with them. And this is what we need. This is the middle of the road voice who can talk to both sides. This is the person, Jordan Peterson, a very, very smart guy. He tweets, McConaughey nails it. Wouldn't you like to see a major politician talk like this? I don't want to pick on Jordan because Jordan's Canadian. What does he know about guns, right? So he's not from around here. And I've talked about why we have guns in this country and why it's specific to this country and why it has to do with our unique federal system. This is the final defense of our federal system. It's one we never want to use. It's one we hope we never use, but it's a deterrent to know that we can use it if we had to, if the federal government essentially attacked us and tried to take our states' rights away. This is the last defense. That's what it was intended for. I know it sounds savage, but that's what they are there for. And when we look at the federal government today, obvious that nothing has changed in terms of that. Let's listen carefully to what McConaughey said. We need to invest in mental health care. Absolutely. But we have no idea what to do with mental health care. Our mental health care is terrible. We need to restrain people. We need to put people who are dangerous or are going to live in the street. We need to take people off the street. Is anyone going to do that? Is anyone on the left going to take people off the street? Is anyone on the left going to say, yes, we're just going to sweep these people up and put them in some kind of housing? I don't see any sign of it. It's in blue cities where these people are living on the streets so much. We need safer schools. Is any Democrat going to support that? Is any Democrat going to support arming people or having more guards? We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage. You can't. This is the First Amendment protects them. There's nothing anybody in government can do about this. We need to restore our family values. Now think about that for a minute, all right? Think about our family values. They're bringing drag queens to dance for children. They're having little boys in drag dancing for grown men, and the left left-wing media saying, isn't that cute? I mean, if it was a little girl dancing for grown men, they would see exactly the wickedness that they are supporting. So when he says that, all the right goes, yeah, we need family values, but the left is in power. And the left is in power, and this issue is a leftist issue. This wouldn't be an issue because none of these rules are going to stop any school shootings, so it doesn't matter. But this is not what we would be dealing with. So he's saying these things, but do they have any real resonance at all? And again, that's not attacking McConaughey. It's just saying the fact that he's a movie star makes you think like, something that he said something new. We know these things. When he says you need American values, they hate America. The left hates America. They talk racism is in our DNA. The New York Times puts out this 1619 project, and nobody says, hey, you can't give a Pulitzer Prize. So that is full of lies. It's a distortion. Nobody says it except on the right. So who is he talking to, right? They knelt in Congress. Democrats knelt down to pay tribute to this drug-infested guy, George Floyd, while people were burning down American cities. And he's talking about American values. Again, not an attack on him, but who's he talking to? Who is he talking to? The only thing, a gunman, a guy with a gun, was caught planning to kill Justice Kavanaugh, I assume over a Roe v. Wade decision, which hasn't even been released yet. They didn't even put it on the front page in the New York Times. I'm not sure they covered it in the New York Times at all. Most of the left-wing media hardly covered it. It's a Supreme Court justice who's had people protesting outside his house while the media cheered him on. I mean, this is what basically, you want to talk about people calling for violence against our justices? Here's a lunatic calling for justice. Here's this left-wing assassin basically threatening Brett Kavanaugh's cut 17.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
Okay, maybe that was Chuck Schumer and not the actual assassin. But, come on, who are you talking to when you're saying these things? So January 6th is a big deal. We have to have days and days and days and days of primetime hearing covered by everybody except Fox News, who's holding out to be a little bit honest. But when it's a left-wing gunman, nothing. So he's out to kill a Supreme Court justice, absolutely nothing. Even Nancy Pelosi won't call a vote on a bill they've already got to give extra protection and security to our Supreme Court justices, not going to do it. So no matter what Matthew McConaughey is saying, the only actionable thing he said is gun control. And while, again, he has the right to his opinion, but this is what he said. He knows what he's doing. He knows his power. He knows what he can convince people of. So the only really actionable thing he said is let's get rid of AR-15s and so on. Back in 2018, he was at a march, an anti-gun march, and this is what he said, cut 3.
Now again, as stated in the March for Our Lives mission statement, how do we do this? They've got 3 hallmarks here. 1, let's ban the assault weapons for civilians. To my friends out there that are responsible owners of these recreational or these assault weapons that they use for recreation, please, man, let us take one for the team here and set it down. Number 2, let's restrict the capacity on the magazines. I mean, look here. In the state of Texas, we have a 3-shell limit to hunt migratory birds. Do the math, you get my point. The third one, let's better regulate the background checks that are already in place and close the loopholes that exist in those background checks. Now, those are the 3 main stipulations. And for those 3, I can say it, you can say it with me. All right.
So I didn't hear anything about American values there, about family values there, about mental health care there, which makes me feel that he's using his celebrity, his power as an actor, to throw out these sops to the right, and the right is falling for it, while really what he's saying is take away the, AR-15s and when he says that, he says, oh, that you have these things for recreational purposes, just lay them down. They're not for recreational purposes. That's not why we have gun rights. You may use them for recreational purposes, but that's not what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for the recreation of these weapons. We are fighting for the essential freedom of states' rights, of keeping the federal system in place from a federal government that has been taking it away for years. They've been taking it away by saying, oh, it's interstate trade. You know, you grow a vegetable in your backyard. That's interstate trade. We can regulate that. They do it all the time. They've done it with the EPA. Oh, that, you know, your bathtub, well, that's a waterway. That's a public, we've decreed that's a public waterway. We can regulate your bathtub. They do it all the time. They do it by giving money to the states. Now the states have to meet certain requirements to get the money they get from the federal government, instead of just saying, well, wait, how about we tax people less so the federal government has less money and the states can raise their own taxes and therefore pay for what they want to pay for without giving away their rights and their essential powers. The federal government has been encroaching on states' rights for at least 50, 60 years. You know, now this push every time there's a shooting to get rid of guns, not a shooting in Chicago, mind you, not a shooting in Chicago, just a shooting where they think they can make people panicked enough and emotional enough to give this up and give up the federal system. So it's not about that. So he's not being straight when he says lay down these automatic weapons you're using for recreation, and really semi-automatic, but still, you know, he's not being straight about that. And people are just falling for it because he's who he is. So it's not him talking. He has the right to say what he wants. He has the right to put his case any way he wants. It's us listening and being sucked into this imaginary movie star world where this is a good guy who's going to appeal to us all. He's not appealing to us all. He's appealing for one thing, which is an end to the Second Amendment. And, you know, like all of these guys, and I've said this before, I used to live next to a big movie star who was a big anti-gun advocate. More guns went in and out of that house as her security people showed up and left every single day. The security people called my wife up and said, don't worry, we're watching your house too, and we're strapped. And you know, McConaughey, we have a picture of it. He's strapped, he's followed around by these guards. That's not what the rest of our lives are like, right? I get my life threatened, and people, can't afford to have guards following me around everywhere, so I own a gun. That's one of the reasons people own guns. But the thing is, he's sequestered, like all movie stars, like all billionaires, like all academics. They're sequestered from, and all these people in New York and LA, they're sequestered from the way most of us live. They are living, his talent, McConaughey's talent, is drawing you into a world of his imagination, but it is not this world. If you want more Klavan-y goodness, and everyone does, subscribe and like and subscribe to the Andrew Klavan Podcast.